Hello, welcome to my channel. I am back again with this lovely little ginger number, and I'm gonna tell you it almost didn't happen. I almost, in between filming the last video and this video, ripped it off my head and threw it across the room because it keeps getting caught in my eyelashes. But moving on. So this video is not really a reaction video. It's kind of just a summary, just my thoughts. Is that a reaction? I don't know, on a video that was going around social media last week. And it was so interesting because the video is old. It's like 3-4 years old. When it was first released, the response was so different than it was last week. So if you looked at the thumbnail, you know that I'm referring to the video that Tobe and his wife Fat Nwigwe, her name is not actually Fat, it's a name that he calls her. In fact, her Instagram handle is Tobe Calls Me Fat, and I think he does that as a way to be funny about her body type and size. She's actually very, very small. Those of us out there who are in female bodies and sensitive about those female bodies obviously probably don't think that that's very funny, and that really ties into the reaction that people got from the video when they saw it this past week. But let's move on. So Tobe and his wife, Fat Nwigwe, they released a series about 3 or 4 years ago called Forever Twisted, Our Love Story. And it is a 4-video series talking about like how they met, and the obstacles they found and what it was like falling in love for them, and so on and so forth. 3 or 4 years ago when it came out, everybody was like, oh, we love this. Thank you for sharing. Oh, I got chills listening to this. I love this so much. And I believe that, the reaction was that way because if you look at what they were able to build and what they were in the process of building at that time, it was very, very admirable. It was great to see. It was very cool. And if you're not familiar with them as artists, let me go ahead and enlighten you now. So Tobe has always been like a recording artist, a social media mover, shaker, rapper, whatever. I don't believe Fat was interested in any of that when she first met him. I'm going to stop calling her Fat. I'm just going to say his wife. I have no idea what her actual name is, but I will look it up and put it up here on the screen. But when she met him, I don't believe she was really interested in any of that, but he, she obviously had like the talent and she could do the things. And so as a result, now as husband and wife, they make music together, they do shows together, they collaborate with a ton of different artists. Tobe's done a Tiny Desk concert, he's performed, Michelle Obama put him on her workout playlist for 2020, and they had a huge year in 2020. They came out with some viral songs that caught people's attention both for their message and for the visuals. They have, since getting married, they've welcomed, beautiful, healthy children. And yeah, just viewing all of that, their story is admirable. It's a beautiful thing, and it looks, it's goals, if you will. Which is why when it resurfaced on social media last week the way it did, it was interesting just to see the different response. I didn't know that for a while people had been talking about this couple negatively. I'd always assumed that everyone sort of worshipped them and did think of them as goals. And so when I saw this tweet, I had not seen the video that he was referring to. And, initially I was like, well, yeah, they're goals. Like, have you seen their social media? It's incredible. Then I watched the video and I saw what people were upset about. And so in this video, I just want to take a moment to not only to talk about my personal reaction to watching that. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch all 4 sections. I didn't even really get through the first video. Like I've seen what I needed to see, and so I sort of just pulled back and was like, okay, this is why people are upset. But I want to give my reaction to what I did see. I want to give probably a different perspective on it. I have seen some perspectives that are very pointed, very aggressively angry about what they saw, and have been very vocal about that. So that's not where I'm going to go with this. So if you're looking for that, I will link a video below that does have that reaction. So I'm going to start my little summation here with talking about the time that I actually met Tobe in person. If you ever meet him or if you talk to him and you're like, hey, there's this girl on YouTube and she said she met you, he's not going to know what the hell you're talking about. He's not going to remember at all. It was literally a fleeting moment, but it taught me so much about his character, and it also affected the way that I viewed what's happened with him and his wife and what they've been able to build in a very short amount of time. It was 2015. And I had found a church that I thought I was going to make my church home. And if you didn't grow up in a Christian church, you're not familiar with that phrasing. So that basically just means like you were raised in a church and it's your job to, either stay in that church, or as you get older and you have your own family, find a church home where you can go and worship and serve the body of Christ. And I believe that I'd found it in 2015 after looking for a really, really long time. Why was I looking for such a long time? I'm glad you asked. Just to summarize this and kind of crunch it down, my 20s were a time where I didn't feel very safe in the church at all. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel understood. I didn't feel welcomed. For the simple fact that I had grown up, like a lot of young women in the 90s, with nothing but purity culture indoctrination. I had been told, my body was not mine, it was my husband's. I had been told that it was my job to learn how to be a good wife and to be a good mother. I had a True Love Waits Bible. I had friends that had cards that were all about, where they'd written prayers to their future husbands, promising them their bodies and their devotion.
Really quickly, I do want to say with regards to purity culture, I absolutely think that there is some value in choosing to, how do I say this? And choosing to make your sexual history start and end with the person that you marry. My only issue is that the reality of life is that not everyone gets married, and not everyone gets married during the years of life where it's sort of the hardest to remain abstinent. And sometimes I think that it's incredibly closed-minded to teach everyone as if they're going to live the same life. So what I think should happen instead is, if you are going to ascribe to purity culture, it should be about you. It should be about what abstinence, what remaining, not having sex, what being celibate can do for you. The positive benefits that it can bring to your mental health. The fact that, sometimes there are those of us, I know I'm included, that we become attached to people that we do have sex with and that we are sexually intimate with. And so sometimes those attachments don't need to stand. They don't need to happen. And I really do believe that for some people it is healthier. Look, at this point in my life, I've been celibate almost 2 years, not by choice, but there have been times in my life where I have been celibate by choice. And I can honestly tell you, even though I didn't choose this run of celibacy that I'm currently on, when I think about my mental health now and my mental health a few years ago, when I was, like I've said before in other videos, in the middle of my horny 30s, and I was heavily participating in hookup culture because there was no spouse, there was no relationship, but I had physical needs. My mental health was not as good as it is today. My emotional health was not as good as it is today. So I do think there are benefits to celibacy. I also think that when you are, I do believe it when people say that abstaining from sex and being celibate can give you a greater spiritual connection if that's what you're looking for. However, my issue with purity culture is making everything about the spouse, the inevitable spouse, the spouse. And I don't think that's fair. It should be about, and I know where it comes from. I get it, but I do not think it is fair. And it gives people a very, very unrealistic expectation for their lives, for their relationships. And it imagines that all of us will walk this same line, and we just won't. So that's all I have to say about that. I don't think there's anything wrong with abstaining, with abstinence. I don't think there's anything wrong with celibacy. And I understand how they help to inform and even make better a spiritual practice. But my issue with purity culture was it was all about preparing yourself for a spouse and taking away your sexual agency and your, sexual identity and signing it away to this imaginary human being that the likelihood of you meeting them really varies from person to person. I don't think that anyone should ever be treated or conditioned to believe that we're going to have this one size fits all future, because that's just not how it works out. So I do want to say that I don't, if that's what you're practicing, no sex before marriage, I think that that's great. But around 24, 25, and even earlier than that, actually, I started to kind of understand that might not be the best move for me. And so I made different decisions. I'm not trying to poo-poo on anybody's decision when it comes to that. I want to make that clear.
And then I lived my life. and I got my heart broken by a random. I went to college and literally never went on dates. I got into my adulthood and could, I've talked before about my struggle to meet someone. And I also started paying attention to the fact that a lot of times relationships are just the result of social visibility. Like, you're just around a lot of people who think like you, who see you as a romantic counterpart, and then they choose you. And a lot of times I found myself outside of those social situations, whether by choice or it just ended up that way. And so, yeah, I just saw myself sort of not being able to live the life that I'd been taught. I mean, literally, if you were growing up in the 90s and you were growing up in the early 2000s, I would even say there was so much focus on abstinence-only sex education. We were so horny that it really wasn't safe to remain single after like 22. Like, it honestly wasn't. And I noticed that when you went to churches, the singles ministry would be a bunch of people that got married like their freshman year of college. They had no idea what it was like to really tussle with like having a broken heart, with being a horny young person. They had no idea. And I just felt like nobody could really see me. And also, I started looking at non-denominational worship spaces, so places that were a little bit more modern, a little bit more relaxed, and unfortunately a little bit more white. And that started for me in college. And I say unfortunately because I often didn't see myself reflected in leadership or in worship, and I'll talk about that for a second. And I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, I really felt like church was not going to give me what I needed as far as truly helping me understand what it was to navigate this world as, honestly, not a wife to be, but as a single woman who might get married one day, but should also be building her life anyway outside of that. That's the training I would have liked to have received. Those are the environments I would have liked to existed within, and that was not the case. Every church I went to, if you were a young unmarried woman, they were talking to you about being prepared and dating and doing that, and it was just like, bro, let me just be. Leave me alone. I mentioned the whole worship thing. So I grew up singing in the choir, and when I went to modern worship spaces, modern Christian churches, I noticed that they didn't have choirs anymore. What they had was the worship team, like the rock stars of the worship ceremony. So like people out in their jeans and they're in their little hats, and and they're up there and they're singing all the contemporary worship songs. And I noticed that in predominantly white spaces, the vocal talent for me was sometimes missing, or was just a different style. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I kind of like that because I don't have to go up there and like blow my voice out every week if I was to choose to be a part of this. But then I noticed that when I would try and pursue, wanting to be a part of the team, they expected me, because I am a Black woman and black skin, to get up there and blow it out, to bring this gospel edge to whatever they were doing. So for example, a young white woman could sing a song like this. He calls me out upon the waters, great unknowns, where feet may fail. Whereas I was expected to sing it like this. He calls me out upon the waters, great unknown. And I'm not kidding. Like, you can tell me, oh, you're making that up, that's not real. There was at least 2 times where I knew worship directors who were like, well, we have a team unless you have that kind of a voice. And you can tell from the sound that I just played, that's me performing that voice. That's not natural to me. That's not, it's not comfortable. That's not the way that I'm comfortable singing it. If I was to sing it in my own voice, it would sound like this. So yeah, I never felt like there was a place I could truly serve in the way that I felt like I was gifted to serve. And of course I could do work with the youth and this and that, but I work with the youth all the time. Like, they were what I did for a living. So I remember in California, there would be churches who held services in the school that I just stopped working in. Like, I worked there from Monday through Friday, and I got to come back on Sunday to sit in the same auditorium. I just left here, and that's just because California, the real estate is so expensive that a lot of churches do operate out of schools, hotels, clubs. So I didn't feel that there was a place where I could really serve. And I didn't also know if I even wanted to serve, because I felt like, as a single woman who was not on the road to marriage, like, it was not in my purview at all. Churches didn't really know what to do with me. And I didn't feel comfortable when they would talk about the realities of life, because a lot of them hadn't lived a reality. They'd gotten married when they were 19. 2015. They'd stayed in the church, the church bubble. And so yeah, I felt ostracized. I didn't feel understood. And it was hard for me to find a church home. I liked non-denominational church spaces. I didn't like how predominantly white they were. So that was another thing that got to me. And in 2015, I finally found a place that I really, really liked in Houston, Texas. And that's where I met Tobe. It was a whole thing with me trying to get on the worship team. I was supposed to meet with the worship director, but in order to get on the worship team, you had to be also serving in another capacity. So I was serving as a greeter, and I was standing out in front, doing my greeting, waiting to talk to the worship director after service. Because when I found this place, and I saw their worship team, and I saw that, there were people of all skin colors. There were lots of Black women leading worship with these contemporary worship songs, singing in all different types of styles. As long as their voice helped contribute to the overall beauty of the ceremony, they were accepted. And I was like, finally. So I was excited to meet with the worship director, and I was just waiting, and serving through the services until I could do that. And I'm out in front and I'm greeting, and Tobe comes up and he says to me, "It's our month." And I was like, "Who are you talking to? What are you talking about?" And even though I had found the church in 2015, I hadn't really wanted to join or to make any steps to actually join the church until fall of 2015. So I actually met and spoke to him on February 1st, 2016. And when I realized, oh, it's Black History Month, I felt really stupid. And so I was like, yeah, you're right. It is our month. It is Black History Month. And he kind of looked at me like, she doesn't have it all together. So then he asked me, he goes, "What do you think it has in store for us?" And when he asked me this question, he just kind of looked out over like the horizon and like took a deep breath. And I was thinking, this is a person who asks big questions. This is a person who has high hopes. And I just told him, I said, "I don't know." And then somebody called his name and he walked away. And I was like, I see why people like this guy, because, he was always at the church. He would be emceeing. He would be warming the crowd up. Like, he was always around. And I remember thinking, I see why people like this guy. He seems very just open to possibilities. They're just like an energy I got from him where it was like very inviting. It was very warm. It was not what I saw in that video, I'm gonna be honest. And so, yeah, I just, that's when I met him. And I found out later that we actually we graduated from the same college, University of North Texas. And so I always felt in some way attached to his story because of our tiny little conversation and little details like that. And Tobe then went on to, I didn't really pay attention to him. I ended up moving to LA that same year. So I didn't actually end up getting involved in the church as much as I wanted to. The worship director was like, "Oh, we have so many people that are interested, but it was great meeting you. And we definitely want to get you on the schedule." And then he never contacted me again. So I didn't get to participate. And I just started focusing on moving out of Houston. And that's what I ended up doing. And I didn't really keep tabs on Tobe. I didn't follow him on social media. Like I was saying, I didn't, but I always kept that conversation in mind. And so I sort of was just out of it, didn't really pay attention to him. And then 2 years later, I started seeing him pop up on an explore page here and there. He's on YouTube doing various things. He's here, he's there. And I'm like, this is the guy that I talked to in the lobby. What's going on with them? Then I see he's gotten married to this woman, and I saw that her name was Fat. And I was like, what is that? So that was weird to me. And then the summer of 2020 was when I really got a chance to see what he had grown into and what he had built with his wife. And I remember thinking, okay, this is something. And I was a little bitter about it. I'm not going to lie to you, because I remembered our conversation. And in the same amount of time, from the time that we spoke, he'd gotten married, started a family, started a recording career, put his, big old footprint into the minds and hearts of pop culture forever. And I had managed to I was clearly on a different path. So yeah, that's what I knew of that couple. That's what I knew of him. Then I saw this video and it caused me to just, reevaluate. So what about the video made people so upset? First thing is that in the video, they are telling their love story, and he doesn't let her get a single word out. He constantly mocks her. He constantly makes it seem like she's an idiot. It, for me, crossed the line between bullying somebody and just joking with them. And a lot of people were confused as to why, if this is your wife and the mother of your children, why you are presenting her in this way or allowing her to be mocked and ridiculed in this way by yourself. Why would you do this? Also, I want to say that he makes it clear that when they first met, he didn't think she was good enough for him. And of course, that sent people reeling. And I'm not going to lie, listening to that unlocked some very deep insecurities that I have about myself always when it comes to dating. For example, he made fun of her wardrobe. He said, when we first met, you were wearing Charlotte Russe. And I guess in a lot of people's minds, Charlotte Russe, it's an old brand. I don't even know if they still have stores. I don't know, but I used to shop there all the time. And I guess in a lot of people's mind, Charlotte Russe is basic. The kids today would call it chuggy. And the thing is like, I've always felt, just personally speaking, that because I'm not, running around with like tattoos up and down my arm and like piercings everywhere and this and that a lot of people meet me and think, oh, well, she's boring. You ever feel like that? Like, because of how you don't present yourself like a, wild peacock with all your feathers out and, everything about you on display, that people look at you and they're just like, I'm bored. I've always had that insecurity about myself. And so when he said that that's literally what he was thinking when he looked at her, I was like, ooh, I hate that I was slightly right, that there are people walking around in this world that think so highly of themselves, that they look at people buying mass-produced cheap clothes, and they're like, this person isn't worth me even accessing or talking to. They could never be as cool as me. That hurt me to hear that. I also didn't like the fact that he, like I said, he was ridiculing her. And there was one point where she said, I felt like God had pushed me to Texas, because she's not from here. And I felt like it was because I was supposed to start a new chapter in that city and in that state. And he was like, it wasn't even about all that. It wasn't all that. You're making it more than you're exaggerating. You're doing. And for me, I was thinking, aren't you supposed to be a spiritual person? Like, don't you know that that's how it works? People are pushed. People are like, they do receive, you can call it a calling. You can call it a feeling. You can call it your instincts, whatever. And they go. And so I didn't like that. And that's actually when I stopped watching. I was like, I don't want to see someone be handled in this way. I don't want to see, a young woman be talked about like this, especially by her partner. And I went over to their social media and I saw that people were writing in the comments various things and if you look at the video's comments now, they're pretty nasty. But before this video came back up, they were really positive. But now they're pretty nasty. But also on her social media, people will write things like, you don't really want to write this. He's treating you like his puppet. Because he does say, he kind of Kanye Wested her, and if you don't know what that means, basically when Kanye first met Kim, he went into her wardrobe and made her take, everything out that he didn't like because she had to match his aesthetic and so on and so forth. And he kind of did that to his wife. Took her out of her Charlotte Russe and made her match his muted mint natural. I mean, it's a good aesthetic. Like it's gorgeous, but it does come off as kind of like, I had to mold you into the woman that would be good enough for me. Sort of like he My Fair Lady'd her, whatever. And there's people that feel like he does that in every aspect of her life, as far as like her social media and this and that. And they're very open about it and very aggressive about it in various places online. And so that's why people were upset. That's why the video started making its rounds. That's why you might see reaction videos on it. They might come up on your timeline maybe where people talk about, the implications of their interactions as far as how it pertains to, when you have experience dating a narcissist. There's people that are calling him a narcissist. When you have experience dating men who feel that they are the prize versus the woman that they're dating. When you watch the video, it's very clear that Tobe felt like he was, he was a spiritual man. He was an educated man. He was an athlete. People thought he was handsome. And he had to be very specific about who he chose because he was a prize. And so you have this woman who showed up in his life and he felt so great about himself that he couldn't see her. So those criticisms are all out there. I want to say, for me, just to wrap my little video up here, I was a little inspired by the short amount of video that I did see, and then knowing what I know about how their story started. I went back and looked at her social media and her social media only. And I was a little inspired for a couple reasons. The first thing is that I remember being a young woman. She talks about looking and seeing this man and feeling like he belongs to me. He's mine. And I remember being a young woman, and it's only happened once. And I was super young. And I remember feeling that about somebody. And what I love for her and for all women that this happens to is when you have that feeling, you grow up with that expectation, especially if you grew up in the church, right? Your husband's going to see you and he's going to cherish your body and he's going to do this and that and he's going to help you in your life. And, there's all this propaganda for this man, this partner. There's all this propaganda for this spouse that's going to come into your life. And for so many of us, it doesn't turn out that way. The person that you end up with is not someone that's satisfied all of the expectations that were told to you and the ones that you had in your heart. They're just not. They're not that person. And people do end up settling or being with somebody that they do, whatever. That happens. And what I love about her when I look at how she looks at him, how she was like, we on the outside can say, oh, he just treated her like a puppet and he just wanted her to be his little, project and he never felt like she was good enough. We can say that on the outside, but when I look at her, I don't see a woman who feels like she's being manipulated. I don't see a woman who feels like she is being treated like a puppet. I see a woman who had an idea about who she wanted to be with, had an idea about who the father of her children would be, had an idea about how she would feel when her hope, when her dreams, when her expectation was satisfied. And I feel like she met that person. And while he wouldn't be the one for me because I don't like that type of joking. I don't like that type of talking. You gonna talk to me nice. When I look at them together, it's clear that he was for her. So yes, while people might have all kinds of ideas about that video, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on it because it definitely disappointed me a little bit, but it also inspired me because I like seeing people's expectations met. And when I see her and I see how she talks about him, you have somebody who is deeply in love with someone who's not perfect. He's not perfect. But they have been able to come together and build something beautiful. Now, it also slightly discouraged me because it made me realize that I'll probably never date again for the simple fact that she talks about meeting him not feeling like she was good enough, and her having to wait until he decided that he wanted to be with her. And in the video, she says, I had to realize that you maybe just didn't want to be in a relationship. And he says, I wanted to be in a relationship. I just didn't want to be in a relationship with you. And that pissed people clean off. That pissed me off. I think that's when I stopped watching. But I know that, sometimes as women, we do that. We meet somebody and they just want friends with benefits. We meet somebody and they're like, oh, you're not really my type, but we can hang out, whatever. And sometimes, women and men actually, right? You meet someone and they're just not that into you. And a lot of us, when we're younger, we have the patience to wait for them to decide to love us back. I had it years ago. And I feel like that kind of patience, that kind of endurance is necessary for the dating game. Not necessarily to sit in a situation where you're being like abused and talked to wildly, but definitely understanding that sometimes you have to build a connection. Sometimes, the person may not be as into you, so you'd have to be their friend. I don't have that patience anymore. No, sir, no, ma'am. I've done my time. And so if I was to run into a guy like a Tobe where I felt called to him and he treated me the way he treated her when they first met, nothing would have happened. No beautiful collective, no kid, no nothing. Nothing would have happened because I don't have it anymore. And that kind of discouraged me. I said, well, if you don't have that anymore, can you ever even date again? So after watching this video and like having that thought, I came to the conclusion that the only way I can really ever date again is with ease. Meaning that when I show up, he knows who I am, and vice versa, right? When I come to the party, that red carpet is laid out. Instead of me having the insight and the feeling about him, he has it about me. And when we meet, it is a mutual understanding that the next chapter of our lives has arrived. I don't have it in me to fight nobody to love me. I don't have it in me anymore. I used to put up the dukes and I could, but now I'm tired. You know, to quote Langston Hughes, my soul has grown deep like the rivers. I'm tired. And so anything that's for me is going to come for me, and it is going to be easy. Or it's not going to happen. So yeah, if you haven't seen the video yet, you think you might be interested, I will link it below. I only will link the very first one because, like I said, their story spans into 4 different videos. And I want to know what you guys think. I will say that at the end of the day, we're not actually in their relationship. And so he does strike me as a guy who just jokes very roughly. But I also feel like he is somebody who probably loves really hard. I know people like that. And I see them interact with their families and friends. And to me, I'm like, oh, no, couldn't be me. That's not the type of person I want around me. And then I see what they do for their family and friends. And so I'm just like, okay, well, again, couldn't be me. I don't want that energy. I don't like people that talk like that to their loved ones or talk like that about their loved ones. It's like there's a line. But for the people it works for them. So like I said, I have a little bit of a different perspective. I'm not, somebody that wanted to jump down their throats and pass a lot of judgment because I don't really know the in and outs of their relationship. I just know what wouldn't have been okay with me. So yes, I am interested in what you guys think. And as always, thanks for watching.